Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where in the world you're tuning in. My name is Bob Wright, and is it February 1st already?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it is. At least on in America it is.
Am I back?
Yeah.
You never went away.
These are the types of internet you are in.
I think he's
there, guys?
Oh, there he is.
So, Bob is in
Morocco.
Yeah.
And signal is spotty. I think we should mention that up front. So we might lose him from here to there, but he's joining me, Julien Wells, and Carmel, and we're here for Saturday's transitioning show. And I think Bob had lots of things to share about what.
I'm gonna try and get it out as quickly as I can while I still have internet connection. Like around 11 o'clock, the internet gets extremely bad here. Everybody is trying to go online. So it's 10 o'clock now. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
No. Yes.
I think he just can't hear us is the problem. We'll have to...
No, I'm watching him, and his starts cycling. Hi, Bob. In and out.
Well, I'm going to open up our Skype chat room here, so I'll have another way of communicating with him. Hang in there with us, listeners, as we try to get this line of communication improved. Okay. He says he's going to call into the board.
Okay.
And you've got that? Yeah.
As soon as I see his little hand go up, I'll click him in.
He says area code 570.
570?
Yep.
Not 507, right?
Well, he mentioned in the chat 570.
Okay.
He wanted to share with everybody a little bit of what he was sharing with us before the show started. And basically he's describing that the energy is very intense over there in Morocco. And he says there's a couple stories that people might tell, but he hasn't actually asked them permission if he can share those stories and whatnot, but we'll see what he's going to bring in. Yeah, it could be 507. Maybe he mistyped. If the hand's up, then you probably should just try bringing it in. Still nothing yet, Carmel?
Nope. Not a 570, and he didn't answer me about the 507 question, so,
He might not actually have chat. If 507 has his hand up, let's bring that person on regardless.
Hello?
Hello?
Who are we speaking with?
This is Bob. I don't know how my hand got put up. I just called in, so...
It didn't.
507 is Minnesota.
Yeah, we're looking for Bob. You know, he's 570, so I just...
Well, this is a Bob. That's just...
Another Bob.
Yeah, wrong Bob, though.
So
all right, I'll go sit in the back of the class and behave myself.
Oh, I love it.
Okay.
Okay.
That's quite a quinky dink.
Yeah, no coinky dinks. None whatsoever.
Well, till Bob can come in, of course, we'd love him to be able to share, and we know that the internet is kind of wiggy for him over there, and there's not much we can do about that. I did want to talk a little bit today about how intense the energy is over here. I think Morocco's not the only place to get some amazing experiences last week. Have you noticed anything?
Of course not. Of course it's smearing all over the planet.
So, I don't even know where to start. I'm going to start at a broad level and then work my way in. And the broadest level I'm going to work with here is from the Pleiadians' perspective. Now, there's been a lot of activity that I haven't been privy to, a lot of behind the scenes that I feel that's going on, and so I haven't really discussed it too much. But what I am getting straightforward right now is that there's been some significant shifts on the Pleiadian, Andromedan, Arcturian, Sirian, Orion, and those from Tau Ceti, and I think another place, but I can't really get the name. What's been happening is that their home worlds are being affected right now, similar to how Earth is going through an energetic shift. This is not exactly like what we're having, but what they're getting is this sort of like they're like vicariously receiving that energy through those from their family that are here in our solar system right now. So it's as if they are affecting their own homeworlds by, having a level of communication with them and sharing them with them what they're going through out over here. And what they're going through over here is not even as intense as what we are going through here on the planet. But all the planets are actually going through a form of upgrade, through an energy sort of gift, as I like to call it. And so they're bathing in that as well. And that's actually affecting beyond our solar system quite a few things. And these are things like, how, where we've come from over the last year, we've sort of like expanded our mind and taken on a new responsibility for ourselves and discovered hidden things that we hadn't known that are perfectly timed with the lessons that we're getting day to day. And this is happening for them as well. So it's turning into like this really large shift on a couple really sort of fundamental levels. So for instance, there was I'm just gonna gather the information right now. I'm just a little bit downloading what they kind of want to say. There has been it's literally an energy alignment. It's kind of like if someone has like a jigsaw puzzle, and what they're doing is they're putting the jigsaw puzzle together, and someone else comes along and helps them with the jigsaw puzzle. So the picture is being completed faster. And this is not actually what they expected. So this is new to them as well. And for the Pleiadians, what this is doing is all those individuals that I mentioned were 3.5D. That's what I sort of call the ones that are very human-like, that I first contacted. They're all like growing up. They're all like between the ages of like 8 and 13 or something, perceptively to me in terms of their maturity. But that's all, they're all like growing up now. They're like 16-year-olds, like being able to allow to drive the car and stuff. They have like their freedom has expanded in ways they never even imagined their freedom would be. You know, not that those in the broader, 5D Pleiadians and the 7D Pleiadians didn't know about, but the 3.5Ds are going through their own shift. From my higher being perspective, I'm going to call that fourth dimensional. They're becoming fourth dimensional finally. And my definition, although I may not share it with anyone else, my definition of fourth dimensional is in transition. Is transitioning at a very rapid pace, basically expanding mind and growth and potential very rapidly. Now, I define fifth dimension as basically the understanding of, what you've just journeyed through. Now you have a whole nother world to play in. Now you have a whole nother way in which to exist within your arrangement of potentials. The fourth dimension, as I perceive it, is the transition point. It's the traveling through the wormhole feeling and how things move very quickly. And so they're actually a lot like that. When I said 3.5D, when I initially mentioned them, that was my perception that they were growing only very incrementally, and I used 0.5 simply because they already have a lot of freedoms that we don't observe. It's a lot more access to their higher being, a lot more access to wisdom, and and their past lives and whatnot. They don't have the veil as we have it. They do have their own version of the veil, but it's up to each person to decide how much they're going to incorporate. It's a conscious decision to have the veil or not. It's like putting on a blindfold, but knowing the blindfold's on and being conscious, you can just take the blindfold off whenever you feel like you don't want it on anymore. So this is what's occurring with them. On another level, it's leading to kind of like the kind of shift where people are like going, aha, but what does that mean? Like, what are we going to do now, sort of thing. It's like, wow, this is amazing. I'm never going to forget this new insight. But now, like, what are we going to do with it? And so that sort of like, that wave is panning out amongst them all. And that's not just based on their observing humans, although they're doing that. It's kind of like automatic, just by being around here, by being in the area. They're changing their minds about disclosure, like constantly. There's no consensus yet, but the idea of free will is actually becoming recoded. It's as if free will is not what they once used as a default term for keeping your distance until you're invited. It's as if their own internal empowerment has become so much that when they have empathy for what they want to shift, they're finding out that they can shift anyone that they're in extreme empathy with. It's like literally be the other person before you can truly ask them to do something. And from that perspective, asking them to do something is as, would be on the surface to someone else look like you're telling them to do this. But it's literally as if you're speaking with a voice that they couldn't do this for themselves because they're not observing it from the dualistic point of view, the bifocal point of view. And so they're able to do that for each other, especially with telepathy. It makes it very easy. But that's what I'm getting right now, and that's not entirely downloaded from a 7th dimensional, but I would say that knowledge has just been shared with me from the 7th dimensional and like 2 5th dimensionals. The transition is basically, it's coming down to the transition is going on off planet as well. And they're actually taking a lot of time for themselves. And in some degrees, it might look like they're paying less attention to us, but on other levels, they're actually in more harmony with us now than they've ever been with before. They can better understand us better than they ever could before. That's mostly from the Pleiadian. That's actually just from Pleiadian words. But the sense is that most of the really big groups that are visiting here are being affected in that way. Similarly. Yeah, that's all I have right now. But I have a sense that is probably something I'm going to be talking about a little bit more going forward. Carmel, how have you felt this last week in terms of energies surrounding living day to day?
The practice of remaining in now presence has become second nature. When I slip out of it, it's really obvious. It's really obvious. So my awe is not in the presence and the energy that is on the uptake. My awe is, oh, I forgot that. Okay, now I'm noticing those moments where I've let my focus slip from the love I am love now place. And the ease and flow is exactly that. It's become just ease and flow. Not that we're not having physical presence making changes. I'm at the tail end of a really interesting release, and this is not lots of releases that are happening suddenly over probably the past week that are starting to amp up. And today the inspiration and the connection came to write about it and to put it on my blog for the February time vibe on my global portal. So if you want to read that, theempressoftime.blogspot.com. February 2014 time vibe is up, and it's an overview of the imagery that I have been given and open to regarding those of us who are walking the talk here in the time reality.
Oh, I see. And those numbers are growing every day.
Well,
that's what I've noticed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We're not alone anymore. We're not alone here on the planet, brother to brother, sister and brother, family together. We're not alone anymore, and there are so many more people waking up to that realization that it's all done. It's just a matter now of sticking to the point in my own presence, in my own focus, and holding the things that I am wanting in my attention and giving those things my attention and letting the other things take care of themselves as they naturally do when you do that. So lots of waves. Lots and lots of waves. Okay, so yesterday, well, on the journey on Thursday night, we've been having a kind of an ongoing conversation about the detoxification process, which is a release process of the lower frequencies.
Yeah.
That most people are experiencing about and are slowly starting to find words to express for themselves so they can make heads or tails of it. But we really do have a whole cycle of opportunity that we're in 2014 that's going to allow us to process all of the new data, the new realizations, and making space for the allowance of that new data as we slowly release the belief systems and the identity beliefs, more so the identity beliefs, because this journey is about you.
Mm-hmm. And is it just me, or is it actually getting easier, not harder?
No, it's totally getting easier.
Like someone has given us a bar of soap or something.
Yeah, it's totally easier to do that. So yesterday, we were talking about detox, and Barbara Carnes called in and said, she had an episode where she had a sudden, unexpected, and fairly violent release of something that came from her belly. So she had about a half an hour episode of projectile vomiting. That was the truth of it. Something within her wanted out, and it wasn't food, it wasn't anything like that, but there was something that was stuck in her center that she needed to just release. So we listened to the story, and Linda talked to her about it, and I looked at her timing. She's in a 9, which is about release. And, here we are February 1st, and we are running right into a 9 global year, month, in a 7 global year, which is all about the new data and the new realizations, the hidden becoming revealed, and the inquisition of new perspectives regarding the expansion that we're really heading towards now, and have been. So yesterday, while I was doing something, I was totally absorbed in something else. I'm walking up the stairs, and the sobbing floodgate opened. I started to sob, and it was real. The first 90 seconds was very painful. It was a very painful release, a very painful sobbing. It only lasted 90 seconds. It then gave way to waves of relief, waves of sobbing relief. I don't know where it came from. I'm not consciously sad about anything particular in my life. Are these the release waves that are coming to us for us, like you said, a bar of soap, to grease the way, whoever are these empathic waves? Often I'm very empathic, so it could be part of that, So this sobbing went on for about a couple of hours. Now, but interestingly enough, during this wave of sobs, I happened to be standing in front of a Netflix disc for this film called How to Train Your Dragon. Now, metaphorically, this was the most curious event, because this was about a tribe of human beings who were into killing, who were into overcoming, who were into destroying as a living.
The Vikings.
As a living, this particular tribe was, these were dragon slayers. That's what they did. That's what they trained for. That's what they lived for. And there's one little boy, one little human, who just didn't fit the mold. He was constantly out of sync, and what he was innately a way shower, who, instead of slaying the dragons, the reptiles, learned to love them. So every time there was this, this interchange of love and understanding and compassion, I sobbing. I can't take so many tissues I went through. Wet tears, flooding tears, weeping. And by the time this film was over, I was completely empty of all frustration, of all anger, of all wanting to overcome the cabal. So here was my symbology. I'm a symbologist, right?
Yeah.
So here was a symbology. The dragons, in this instance, it was just so obvious to me that this was representing the
reptilian mind.
The reptilian line of mentality that we don't really understand. We understand some of it. We understand some of it. Of course, this wasn't typical reptilian behavior as we have learned it to be in this particular film. But the hope that, and I don't like to use the word hope, but there was this hope of love. Love was there. no matter what, love will prevail. No matter, you know, and the reptiles in this particular story, they were just as eager to kill these humans. They were on a roll too, you know. So I made note of this emptying process and how it was triggered. It was triggered with some pain that was unidentified initially, that was based on frustration. The frustration. And so if I had to really, you know, if Freud were here with me, he would say, so tell me about your mother, you know. And I don't think it had anything to do with my mother. I think what it had to do was that frustration of wanting to cross the threshold, wanting the veil to be gone, be gone, be gone, and knowing that I'm so close, like everybody else, you know. So this is how I've been experiencing the energies personally. You know, I still believe in keeping it close to home, keeping it close to self, to center. I am that I am. Love now is what wrote the time vibe for February. And as far as I'm concerned, it's perfect. And, you know, if it resonates with you wonderfully, that, you know, and helps to inspire, or there's always tools. I always jam tools in there for people to poke around and help reinforce their presence and their now being. But it has gotten a lot easier for me to stay present and to recognize love and to understand that uh-oh feeling when it comes and to acknowledge it, to love it, to thank it for doing what it does for me. You know, which teaches me the difference. It teaches me what I do prefer. You know, so you know, that's how I have been experiencing it, and I'm trying not to watch the fol-de-rah and fiddle-dee-dee of all the drama, but I have poked my nose in there, and I've been getting really strong reactivity, emotional reactivity of the uh-oh. You know, the uh-oh is coming. It's like, oh, what are you sticking your face in there for, man? That's just turmoil. That's just a difference of opinion, a difference of perspective. Nothing means anything unless it means something to you, and especially unless it means something to you in your presence of love, which is your innate and eternal presence. So, yeah, that's my answer to the question, and those are my experiences, and I'm not alone. We're not alone in this. I'm going to open up get somebody on hold. I'm just going to open it up and let them join in as they want to on this conversation. Hi, 479. You've joined the conversation. Thanks.
Thank you so much. This is DeerWomon. Hello, Carmel and Julien.
Hello.
Hello. I'm very moved by what each of you have just shared, and welcome the opportunity to share my read on the energies right now.
Great.
Yes, thank you. There's great surges of energy going through me right now, and it happened just minutes before the show. So I sat down, and I too feel like the star families want to communicate. I first want to go to respond to Julien, what you were saying about the Pleiadians. What I'm being informed about with the star families is that while we have been getting closer to our star seed cells, and we've been reaching, and they have empathically be reaching towards us, what I'm hearing is that they too did not know what was going to happen in this Earth to Star engagement, and now what is happening is that they are experiencing us more as emotion in our emotional bodies as humans, just as confused or in awe as we are experiencing our starseed beingness. And now we are actually entering a mutual dance. We are both families now. We are at a mutual dance, and they're having similar responses as humans that perhaps take 2 steps forward too soon and kind of want to retract, and we can't any longer. They're having that experience, but we seem to have a better comprehension of what that is on our end than they do on theirs. And so
I think a lot of that. And although the seventh dimensional ones were kind of predicting shift, it's as if they didn't know how it was actually going to look. They just, saw the overarching level of it.
How could they know what our experience is going to be? How could they actually know that? We haven't created it.
No.
Exactly.
So I'm listening. I listen to Blossom's, translations, and for the, and I've been listening to her since before the 2008 letdown, and I saw those cloud ships. I saw them with my own eyes. They were amazingly huge, and they didn't, and that was as far as it went. And then there was, well, you didn't show up. Like, when are you going to help us? You didn't show up. When are you going to do it for us? You didn't show up. You keep saying this, and you don't, you don't follow through. When I'm reading these things from our brothers and sisters in the other planets and dimensions who are interacting with us in these time frequencies and these lower frequencies, I think that it's like it's the carrot at the end of the stick, giving us enough confidence or giving us enough company to help us continue to just keep taking one step at a time. Even though nobody knows where we're really going, it doesn't matter.
Right.
We know that the expansion is upon us, and we're all participating in it currently. So once again, they say, well, Blossom, we're not going to do it for you. We're only doing, as much as we can do, and that is standing by your side and encouraging you. And I got to tell you, when I don't want anybody speaking for me, in my experience, or agreeing to anything for me, that includes the folks that are arguing with Heather, currently, like Ron Van Dyke and all that stuff that's going on, and I go, oh God, here we go with this drama. I am who I am, and this process is about me taking steps and learning to pay attention to who I am. And what I'm participating in and what I'm agreeing to. And there isn't anybody anywhere that's going to be able to help prearrange that for us unless they're going to trick us. And we've already been down that road, and we're pulling our heads out of the tar sands, currentently, and moving away from that kind of an arrangement. So I like that, the brothers and sisters, the star brothers and star sisters, they're all having, this is a quantum experience, is it not?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Nothing is not affected. Every time each of us has our own thought. So, I've learned to just sort of accept that that what I want to occur is in my heart. And my heart tells me what I really want to occur. And the longer I resist, listening to my heart, the longer I'm just delaying my own experience.
Right.
And that's going to happen eventually anyways.
Right.
So there's all these experiences that I've been having on the peripheral that are there to sort of like crack down on everything that resists my heart from feeling and doing everything that it wishes. So that's really what I feel is happening for me. And at that level, I've had long periods of time where I don't speak with the Pleiadians, for instance, and nothing comes up for me. No, there's no thoughts as if they're not there, and but all it takes is for me to like think about them for 5 seconds, and then they're there. Like they were always waiting. They were just not in a position to try to influence me in any way. Right?
Well, they're just like the divine source. Just like the divine source. When you invite Creator and turn your attention towards Creator, they respond the same way.
Yeah. Now, they have if I could share real quick, the Pleiadians that I'm really close to, the more the 3.5D ones, we see ourselves as, we are an aspect of God that is fully expressing and creating in the name of God. But from their perspective, what they're seeing is they are merely like way showers to each other, and that they don't create anything, that they don't bring forth anything new, that they're literally mirrors showing themselves to each other as mirrors. And in this process, the telepathy is very heightened, so that this process happens very quickly. So they become extremely homogenized in this process, right? In terms of everyone relatively being on the same page, when they're in a group, it's like they all come to consensus in a very short span of time. Like if they have like sort of like a powwow where they brainstorm together, they do that, and it goes really, really quickly. For us, it could take like an hour before we come to certain consensuses. But like, like for instance, like jury duty, they'd have that figured out in like 3 seconds. They know exactly how to come to consensus really quickly. But their issue and what they're going through right now is a form of identity crisis of still wanting to be individuals and not some sort of like hive being. Okay? So they're facing this last remnant saying, I don't want to be like you, and they're holding their space apart and saying, I'm going to retain this for myself, and I know it's different from you, and I know you take issue with it generally, that you'd prefer that I wasn't this way, but I'm going to hold this for myself, and I'm not simply going to merge with you on all levels. I'm going to merge with you on like 99% of the levels. And what they recognize is that aspect for a lot of people awakening here, such as myself, who want to retain identity. But they still don't know what identity is.
So then that's what us in our Earth experience have to offer, and the intrigue of the polarity of that we're bringing to the table. And what they're bringing to the table, what it sounds like, is if they have this collective consciousness a little more accelerated, we could use a little bit of that. So, I really do believe it's a mutual coming together, and at some point, translators and galactic ambassadors are going to emerge so that we can start to really sit at the big table together and go, my gosh, we love this about you, that would help this. And they go, well, we love this about you, this would help that. So I think it's really important that we start to hold the shared perception that we are all equal with our star families, regardless if it looks like they've got advanced technology or not, because we have a whole other, whole other aspects that we're bringing to the table that are absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Well,
so
we have,
yeah.
Right. And the thing that I think that humans have a problem with is accepting their own quantum technology. We have stuff the ETs don't have. Okay? And we talked about this when we talked about remote viewing. There were 2 remote viewers doing an exercise, and they went to the other side of the moon where there is a space station, and there were people working, and they were making a projection through their remote viewing exercise, and the people on the ground turned around and looked up and pointed right at them. They could see, they projected so well, they could actually be seen. Now, this is something that Julien has...
That's what happens with me.
Right. So,
they can see me.
So, we're eternal essence embodied. There's nothing that comes before us or between ourselves and Prime Creator. When we out of that knowing, that is when we start believing somebody's got shit we don't have, and they can do this, or we, you know, but because everything is perfect right now, and we know that as eternal essence. I mean, when we all sit still and everything's perfect. Peace, so, you know, is part of your presence when you're sitting still and you're meditating, or you're participating in something to do on the blanket of the mother, in water or whatever. So, you know, when we find that peaceful moment, our eternal knowing comes into play, and we know that if we stop breathing, if our corporeal presence is stopped, it's not the end of our journey or our adventure. And our adventure, even if we decide to give up the shell and go play someplace else, is still absolutely perfect.
Absolutely.
Right now, yes.
Yes.
So yeah.
And so that's where our divine genius and brilliance is starting to emerge and reveal itself, as is all our star brothers and sisters. You know, it's our divine brilliance that's coming to the surface here, that through this heart space, you know, we're saying, hey, we see things, we feel things, we know things. Let's come together.
Right.
Can I share a little bit about the relative energy spectrum? They live in a little bit more like a light and love kind of world than we do. I guess it's an easy, basic way of saying it. But as we're expanding into the light and love dimension, as in we're encompassing more of that and finding out how to encompass more of that, calling that, you know, adding 5D to our life, because 3D, the law system that we've sort of come up with and established here in density, fits perfectly within 5D. That's why I use the numbers and escalation, because the smaller number fits within the realm of the larger number, right? So we're including more and more light and love reality. What they're doing by observing us and those who haven't been growing and whatnot is they're encompassing more and more intensity. It's as if we teach them intensity, and the anti, you know, and not like anti, but basically the opposite of release, and learning to focus energy into a very intense experience. See, they can already manifest whatever they want, right? They have the tools, they can manifest objects, all that. What they can't manifest is things like dramatic experience, okay? Because they just don't even know how to even start that, all right? So that's what they're observing, and in one way, what's happening in our world for us is we're expanding our gamut of experience. We have access to low end intense drama, or just intense drama in general, based on how much energy we exist in. They have less energy per square inch in their dimension, okay? And so what we're doing is we're expanding our gamut to include a broader range of experiences. So we have the light and love options. In their world, they're expanding into the more dense, the more intense experiences, and they're learning very quickly. It's kind of like if you already have a broad mind, what are you doing when you expand into intense experiences? Well, the intense experiences, they work their way up. They deliver a broader, they expand your broader capabilities as well. It's all sort of like in unison, kind of like a piano. We've been playing on the low end of the scale, and they've been playing on the high end of the scale. There's a lot of overlap, but as we're playing with the higher end of the scale, we're inventing songs that include a larger range. They see that, and they are starting to include the lower range, and so we're both expanding what kind of music we can play with a larger, larger range of keys that we can play in. It's similar to that. And for them, they've gone through a lot of intensity vicariously through us, and now they're doing things like, I was just told, one of the things that they just arranged not too long ago is that they're recreating a holographic copy of the Super Bowl tomorrow. And Yeah. And what they're doing is those who are who have been around humans long enough and can handle the intensity and the drama and whatnot, they're kind of acclimated a little bit to observing humans long enough, they're all excited to go to this thing. But a lot of them are not. The ones that are this is a terrible thing, and we can't handle the drama, it's just too intense. If we start empathizing with the crowd, we'll just get lost and we'll never be ourselves again. And they're afraid of that kind of shift, so they're opting out, right?
Well, if they've observed us, Julien, they would be fearful of the ultimate, losing memory.
Yeah, there is that.
Losing their memory.
So there's the group mentality, right? The mob mentality, right? No one would overturn a car unless you're surrounded by 50 people. They're all doing it, And this is you're caught up in the energetic momentum. That's what they're afraid of when they show up down here, because it's already happened, right? Many of them have already come down here, and they get lost. They get lost in the human world, and they just become humans. Yeah. Okay? They're walking around as Pleiadian humans. They vaguely remember they're Pleiadian, much like I remember I once lived in Canada. Okay? And although they're not truly lost.
Yeah, but don't we need to remember the reason that they're even here looking at us is because we are freaking awesome.
Yeah,
that's right.
We're so awesome. Look at the stuff that humans can do and have overcome and are striving for continuously. You have over the eons. So I look at this in a same light, different language. Yeah. The container of time, which provides the contrast of know what our choices are. There's another caller up, 218. I'm just going to bring you into the conversation so that you can jump in whenever you can. Allows us a training period. I mean, we look at it at lower frequencies as if it's a bad thing. No, it's getting on a training treadmill, and starting off at a slow speed until you get warmed up. Right.
I hold that similar perception. I think we are just absolutely off the charts. And when I resonate with our star beings, although they offer very extensive other areas, it's like a quartz crystal. They're a little bit cloudier. I think we are more of a heightened, clear quartz crystal.
Yeah, they remind me of the air energy. Or you know what I mean? If you look at the 4 elements, they're kind of airy.
So maybe they don't come down not because, not for any other, not for the interference reason, but maybe they don't come down and mingle with us directly right now because we're like Bam Bam, who hasn't learned to control our power yet.
Okay, I'm gonna share. A very similar thing to that. I used the analogy once when talking to someone about how they see us, and when we're able to actually interact with them. Do you remember the movie Superman? Well, Superman comes from a world where he's no one special. They're all normal like humans, but when he comes here, his physical energy is more compact per square inch relative to where we are now. And so he actually is more solid matter than anyone else. That's why he's made of steel, and also because he has a broader spectrum. He can fly. He doesn't have the limitations of this world, and wherever he perceives it's so intense, it's perceived as a light laser beam. Now, the analogy of Superman is a true thing that occurs. It's as if we were to go to their world and not know it, we would be a little bit like Superman, be able to do whatever. We'd be able to pull our weight around and really change things up fast. That makes sense?
Can I say something? Am I on?
Yeah, you can. Jump in there.
Oh, yeah, great. Just listening for a little bit. It was really, really interesting stuff. And I wanted to take a different approach if I could and maybe get an answer on a question from all of you, your different points of view on this. I wanted to maybe ask a question about kind of our worldly affairs here on Earth. A lot of the trouble of getting to the higher levels that I think you're talking about have to do with sorting out our conflicts, kind of your material conflicts first before you can work on anything else. And I would have to ask this question. In your ideal world, in your ideal physical world, I know you're seeking something more, but in the ideal physical world, would that include governments? Would that include a state? And also, yeah, I guess give me your take on that. And about the beings you're talking about too, I'm not really familiar with a lot of that, but what are their thoughts on our governments? What are their perspectives on our governments here on Earth?
You guys want to go first, or do you want me to share first?
No, you go first.
Okay, so their perspective on our government is nearly 100% unnecessary in terms of what we have set up. Most of it is designed at an early level to actually maintain a vibrational frequency, sort of like only play in the low keys on the piano, okay? And that it's perpetuated. You assume and you play in the music of the lower key density, lower key frequency, and what happens is when you get used to that, you forget that the other keys exist, and you begin to say that the most beautiful music happens in the low key spectrum, and it becomes identified as the only spectrum, which is the spectrum of, we need to protect ourselves, we need to organize because people are responsible, and we need to stand out and protect ourselves from country to country. That's not the case. In their reality, their structure, and they have a structure, at least the Pleiadian structure, it's different depending on what region you're in. So they have a structure here within our solar system. They don't have a home planet, but they have sort of like a fleet here, and then they have several different home planets where they all have slightly different rules on how they organize. But basically, it's just different forms of organizing co-creation. And they recognize co-creation, and they recognize that everyone has an equal inherent value. So no one is treated any differently. No one is treated any differently, as in no one has more potential than another. All they realize is that everyone has developed certain skills, and that everyone is trying to make the best of allotting each other's skills where appropriate. So if you're good at this...
That sounds like me. They hold the total anarcho philosopher view that I hold almost, is that the government is virtually unnecessary, and like you say, it maintains a certain vibration in place. It sets up a structure that maintains the violence necessary for people to demand a government. And so it really literally just holds itself in place and holds everything under it down, and that is a fascinating perspective. I'm sorry, go on.
And then, they hold it as a self-perpetuating machine. But simply by enough people waking up, they really don't expect it to stick around this way for very long. But on another level, they have a planet that they share with Arcturians. Arcturians are particularly high energy beings. They have a lot of energy access to them, so they can be intense in many different ways. They can be like really physically intense. They can be very emotionally intense. They can be just amazing minds of creativity. And they share a world that no one truly forgets what's really going on. So it's like a voluntary game to live on this world where they're all like Conan the Barbarian. Okay, it's like some kind of strange primitive reality where everyone is like He-Man, and the women are the most intense, and they're kind of like they have their own ruler structure. They have and the tribes interact differently, but they're very into like battle and stuff like this. The only thing is they all know that they're immortal, so no one actually kills each other. They're all just sort of like flexing each other's muscles at each other, and sort of like demonstrating this game of free will and who's got more free will. And in that circumstance, it can be seen as sort of futile. But the difference is that they know, and this is what happens, they decide, okay, I'm done here, I check out, and they basically leave the planet, and that's that. They don't have to die. They just say, I'm hitting my button, that was fun, I'm off to the next place. So what's happened here is that no one knows that they're free. That's the problem. No one knows that they could just hit a button and say, hey, that was fun, great, it's time for the next thing, because the transition to the next thing is nigh immediate. Okay.
Exactly. That's fantastic. Yeah, I want to make sure I get everybody's take on that.
Right.
So everybody has. Yeah.
Well, what I think how I would interpret like what Julien was saying is that I think all our nations in a government or an organized way of the divine source coming through us is knowing and accepting that there's a creative solution to absolutely everything. And that, I just keep hearing there's just a couple of basic laws of no harm, no interference, and friendly relations.
Absolutely.
And, yeah. And I do sense that there are governing essences and a galactic governing, a divine governing. But I think it's the innate path that we're all on, that we know within ourselves once we understand that genuine freedom, that genuine free will, and that there is a creative solution for absolutely everything. I don't think that desire to destroy is even in existence.
That was a beautiful thing you just said. That was very well said. I was actually touched by that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Wayne.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, again, my perspective, I look at the time as it's not a thing, but I look at time as a platform, a training platform, and government, hierarchy, and hard-edged contrast have been part of the growth process for our discovery of our true selves. And as we're waking up now, we're starting to realize that hierarchy is not necessary, and governments are going to morph, quote-unquote governments, are going to morph into councils of the people in a more broad spectrum and expansive kind of way. But what are governments? Governments are of the old paradigm. And we also know that was a lie. They haven't been governments for a long time. They've been kingdoms.
Yeah.
Kingdoms of a handful of those who figured out the language and figured out the power and used it to their full advantage. They played us until we figured out they were cheating. And so, the last 100 years we're starting to figure out, oh, you're holding cards under the table, and we're not going to play with you anymore. So I'm seeing where a lot of people they're just simply turning their backs and walking away from these old belief systems that are self-perpetuating, because they're self-perpetuating on purpose so that they can teach us. Again, that getting on the treadmill, it's not going to shut off. It's not going to shut off because you're uncomfortable with the pace. You'll eventually learn to keep that pace up, and then go even faster, or look for the switch where you can change the terrain. So this is a self-created lesson field. This is a self-created educational field. What we think, we draw right to us, and we drew, quote-unquote, government right to us. And we've been doing it for a long time. And now that we have communications that are so close, and I don't even mean by the Internet, the Internet helped to reinforce our telepathic abilities, our innate telepathic capabilities. And those gifts, those are the gifts I'm talking about, our superhuman or eternal human aspects, are starting to just blossom. And it's getting easier for us, Julien said earlier that we've been given like a bar of soap to grease the to grease the pathways. But that bar of soap has been asked for, and that learning to bungee jump without snapping your legs off is now possible. We can take those dives and we can go down into the depths of the lower frequencies and come back up and still in one piece. And we're doing it to test our own prowess, our own abilities. So now that we've tested ourselves to a certain extent, we know that governments are not for the people. And that is going to change really fast in the next 2 years, really fast.
Yeah, and it's happening. It really is happening. Hey, I want to thank you all so much. Just fascinating comments. I wanted to let you know, too, I do a show kind of related to my question I asked. In many ways, I do an anarcho-philosophy show. Would you mind if I direct people to that? Is that okay?
No. Go right ahead.
Yeah.
You can find the show, and by the way, any of you are welcome anytime to have a conversation on there. If you find me on Facebook, search Barry Paul. You can go to Mixcloud, MIXCLOUD.com, mixcloud.com/Barry-Paul, and I do a show about anarcho-philosophy, just 15 minutes every night, and we talk about just about anything and everything, hopefully with the goal of personal freedom.
Good.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Good. I mean, and this is like I'm on 3 shows, and Julien does a bunch of shows, and these programs, these conversations are what is keeping the wheel turning and getting it to go faster. So we're really appreciative. I know I am very appreciative of other conversations happening wherever and whenever they can to help expansion flow. Thank you.
Thank you, and I'll let everybody know about your show.
Thanks.
Barry?
Yes.
Barry.
Thank you for joining us, Barry.
Very nice. Thank you, and I'll have to catch the podcast of this later to hear the whole thing, because I gotta run. But I thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
You too. Something I wanted to respond to earlier too, Carmel, that you said right when I came on, is about when we have moments of dipping out of our 5D, so to speak. It has actually, it's immediately painful, and my experience of that is I experience a very intense compression. It's kind of like, here I am out of the box most of my time, and it's like I put myself back in the box, and there's this serious, like just compressed. And one of the things that I have been shown is that as I'm experiencing more of the 5D, I'm being guided to, the message is take your whole body into 5D, that we may have a tendency to fragment our physical bodies, like our belly is still in 3D, you eat too much and your belly hurts. And I'm being encouraged, no, just take that whole body and bring it into 5D, so that the full-out multidimensional reality that's offering all these amazing tools of evolution are active on our whole mechanism as one connected vehicle. I don't know if that's making sense. Rather than retreating, now my belly can come over here. It's like just step out of, as soon as you have any kind of physical ailment, step out with your full-out light body. And along with this, I had this experience a couple of nights ago, and I'm having this experience more and more, where I wake up in the morning and my dream body stays really present. So I live outdoors, and I had gotten out of my little trailer, and I knew I was very much in my dream body, but something was just prompting me, just get out, and I look up into the sky. It was just before light of day, and there's this huge light planet that is like in my backyard, and I knew in that moment it was serious. Everything about it was serious. It was like, not that it was a planet, but it was a serious energy, and I couldn't focus. I could not get my eyes to focus, and it was the most, it was just this profound experience of more of the multidimensional reality coming and grounding through this vessel. But I just did want to share that with you.
Thank you. I think, I really like what you were saying. It ties together a lot of, it just ties a lot of things together. And that's, I love people who can do that.
Good.
I like how he posed the question when he was on, and I was hoping to pose a question. There is, and I guess I'm kind of posing this question on behalf of the Pleiadians. They had a question for me that I didn't want to give them just my answer, so to speak. Like, I kind of was like, well, don't take it from me. I don't want to be like, give you guys some kind of answer that.
What's the question?
The question is, do we think, as in humanity, do we think that if Pleiadians just started walking around and meeting people, and then they revealed that they weren't human, do you think people would freak out? Because if the freak out element is one of the reasons why they don't do it, right? Because they feel that they would, and they feel that that's already happened in the past. They have experiences to reflect upon where people did freak out, and they didn't handle it well, even though they look like humans.
Well, didn't each of us freak people out up until recently?
Each of us?
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't be my star being self for years. I finally took it to the stage and made it comedic. And half my audience didn't know I was for real until just recently.
Well, if we think about this is it's an interesting question, and if we think about this really, Earthlings were freaking each other out up until the moment that we had a common quote unquote enemy. Okay, now all of a sudden there's lots more camaraderie amongst peoples around the planet, and there's a lot more compassion, etc. that I've been seeing, that I notice all the time. And Julien, they're asking you this when we know that they do energetic samplings all the time. So it sounds like a setup question.
Well,
they do energetic samplings all the time. They know.
They do, but there's a lot of individual Pleiadians who have these desires, and what they're doing is they're questioning if their desires are sort of like too forward, like it's not the right time or something. Right? So they still have doubts. They still have their own doubt.
They still have their own doubt. Oh, I see.
Well, again, we're still Bam Bam without any control. So they should.
But they also.
I live here. Totally second thoughts about coming down here and showing myself and going, hey, and by the way, I'm not really from here. Bloop.
Right. Well, and they also come at an opportune time. I mean, we haven't even begun to break the tip of the iceberg of embracing diversity. So in truth, we're all in masquerade right now. It's everyone's game to start popping out with our diverse selves, that it just seems like they would fit right in the mix.
As if they were always human and they just, hey,
exactly.
I'm gonna be different.
Exactly. Because I had spent my whole life trying to be
Good
human.
point.
I mean, I have had to make a very big effort in being human. And when I could start telling people I'm a star being, and actually I'm more than one, it has more of a context now.
Yeah.
It also makes sense that, if you're asking about human Pleiadians, that, human Pleiadians could come and do that. I mean, it would be really interesting to see a Venusian. It would be really interesting to see, somebody from the Cetaceous, system. Really, that would be something that people would go, okay, now there's a test of my limitations, my personal limitations. So, Bashar talks about this all the time. Yeah, Bashar uses a human form to do his communication. Does he look like a human? Kind of, sorta, in his descriptors. He says he's short little gray. I come from ancestry. If you took off our hair, we would look like little gray.
Yeah.
So, who's to say we aren't all, our families aren't already here? I have seen, as an artist, we study anatomy, and as a numerologist, sometimes the symbologies of the physical presence, it does bring itself up, especially if you're looking at, for instance, homeopathy. Homeopathy uses physical archetypes to describe the symptomologies that are common for that particular archetype. So you could take apart the archetypes, the DNA families around the planet, Asians, Africans, Western Europeans, South America, and you look at the different physiological presences, and aren't those already alien DNA presences there? Well, how can we know? So that's why I'm saying the question is, it sounds like a setup, Julien. What was the real question?
No, that was the question from the 3.5Ds.
Oh, okay.
The 5s and 70s would tell them what they need to know. They were just hoping to interact with us a little bit, and partially because I've been asked the question on more than one occasion from my closer friends, and I don't really want to answer it. I want to say, I know how I'd feel. But I don't,
I remember being canvassed not long before the 2008 mishap. I'm going to call it a mishap because I saw those clouds. Those clouds were hundreds of miles long, and they sat there all day long. And there wasn't another cloud in the sky. And this went on for 10 days. And I took pictures of them and everything. So I said, but I remember being energetically canvassed. Do you want us to show up? And my immediate answer was yes. But then I thought about it, and it was seconds. And then I thought about it, and all of a sudden I went, I don't really know what you look like, and I'm not going to tell you that I'm not going to freak out if you look like, a walking tree. There will be a shock factor because of our visual cues and the psyche that we're just disengaging from of the lower frequencies. So I also felt that apprehension be registered. It was really clear that I was plugged in and somebody was having a conversation with me or listening to this conversation, and it was being recorded. So that sampling happened 2 or 3 times. Then I saw the ships, and then the ships disappeared and nothing happened. And then I went, okay, so there have been other times where I have seen energetic readings being done in the sky, watching a cloud, no other clouds around. This cloud is lit up from within. It has 4 other ships that are accompanying it as it slowly stops, reads, and then moves on, and then stops and reads. So, they know what we're thinking already. We don't, these questions are, probably to have a conversation or to open up a conversation. But I think, it's nice to have those interactions. But I don't like being toyed with. Actually, at this point, if you want to have a conversation, open up a channel and let those who are meant to fall into the channel, and I don't mean another person, I mean a technological channel, so that people can get acclimated to having this conversation with visual.
Well, actually, one of the things that they can do is they can project holograms, right? Through the bottoms of their ship. They can, some of them are outfitted to be able to do this. So they don't actually have to, land. They can have a projection of themselves on the ground. And they can make it look just, not realistic enough so that so that you know it's a hologram rather than an actual perfect hologram.
Right.
And they can do that.
Also we're evolving and mutating. And, when we're in between the worlds, in an altered state, you can look at someone and you can start seeing these other star-seeded beings that we are. You really can see them. So if that's like a personal request from a Pleiadian friend of yours, Julien, I would just say, hang on just a little bit longer, because I think we're coming to a place where we're going to start seeing kind of this dreamy, mutational imaging of each other. Okay, we very readily accept you're sitting with a beautiful being of light and all of a sudden you see Archangel Michael emerge, okay? We very readily will accept an ascended master. And I think we're getting pretty close to accepting an extraterrestrial image. And I think we're emerging. So I would just say to the Pleiadians, just hang on. I don't think we're too far from that.
Yeah. Now, I saw a...
but I want to interrupt real quick. I introduced the area code 303 into the conversation. Their hand was up.
Okay.
Yes, I'm here.
Hey.
Hi there. I'm Vernell in Colorado, and I wanted to find out, what were you guys talking about? What happened in 2008 where we had a long cloud in the sky and then 4 smaller clouds? Are we just talking about spaceships, or are we talking about a HAARP-created event in 2008?
You amalgamated 2 different aspects of a conversation. The first, 2008, was Blossom Goodchild was translating from the galactic somebody. She still speaks with them. And the question was, do you want us to appear? Would you like us to appear? So an energetic sampling had been taken regarding that question, and their agreement to show up on a certain date, and that was October 14th, 2008. So I have, and as early as last summer, I was outside it was July 20th, and it was here in New England, and I'm not the only one who saw this, because months later I talked about this, and other people witnessed this lighted cloud that was floating by itself and emitting light, woo, 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 and there were 3 ships and another cloud next to it. There were 3 visible ships that were bobbing around and just just being there. They were, and they made themselves visible, and I saw them, and I had a conversation with them as I watched. But they were doing I'm sure you're familiar with Charles Fort. He was writing.
Oh, he's a man who had an inheritance, so he didn't have to work. So he traveled around the world and looked at newspaper articles and then wrote a gigantic book about all the sightings, all the plagues, all the things that had happened throughout history, and that's been thousands of years that we've had extraterrestrials showing up here, that it's all recorded. And of course, he compiled it all. It's an amazing book, and I remember just being aghast when I read it, which was a long time ago. And then recently, I was reading, let me see, a man who, oh God, if I have it here, can't think of the name of it. Oh, wait a minute. The Garden of the Gods, Van Doniken, and he says, I don't have time to list them all, but thank God for Charles Fort. And then he goes into some of the same stories. So it's really amazing. We've always had that on the planet. It's great. It's exciting. We're also living at probably the neatest time to ever be alive on this planet. It's very, in so many ways. And I was just curious because I'm a real historian, and I couldn't think of anything specific that happened in 2008. And I'm thinking, what am I missing here? I have to call in and find out.
Well,
you guys are
everybody was paying attention at that time, but since that time, it started to accelerate.
Oh, right.
Yeah. The acceptance of, and the question of, and the disclosure project was becoming well known, and they had testimony from all of the hierarchies in those particular programs, that like Carol Rosen and Stephen Greer, etc., that were starting to come out and talk about the interactions that were truly already having taken place. Our personal experiences, and Julien has them fairly regularly, because he's choosing to. He's choosing to put him in that place. But anybody can actually make those connections.
Yes.
If you're aligning yourself with their frequency and their objectives and agendas as well. So there has to be a harmonization of the energies on more than just one level. Like, can I tolerate what you look like?
Right.
Just as opposed to, can I tolerate that you exist in the first place? So this is the new dawn, I think, of the next couple of years, where we're getting ready to start meeting some other aspects of life. Life is everywhere.
Well, since I haven't tuned into the show this early and I've never heard of your show, by the way, what's the name of your show?
This is the Transitioning.
Transitioning. Okay, I heard it when you first started. That's great. Okay, well, now I know where you guys are and what time, and it was lovely, and thank you very much for answering my question.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
A question from the chat room. Didn't Julien mention they look similar to humans? Pleiadians do. There's only a couple color combinations that their skin and hair tends to take that makes it look like someone's trying to be like a punk rocker. But otherwise, most of the Pleiadians that are here in this place, they're all very human-like. They can easily pass for humans. Probably amongst them and a couple of variations of Andromedans, they can pass for humans really well. What you'll notice is that their vocal cords may not match what you expect. They may have, like the women have very high pitch, and the men will have a very high pitch, kind of like maybe if they were gay or something like that. They're used to telepathy. They also have their own communication. It sounds a lot like birds chirping, and it can get kind of musical sometimes. They intentionally put the musicality to it. The musicality delivers the emotional aspects.
Well,
so it's like singing.
Here on Earth, the vowels do.
What?
Here on Earth, the vowels do. So do they have vowels, Julien?
I don't know.
Like,
all I know is what they sound like. And, a lot of them don't know how to speak English, at least the ones that I'm in contact with. But they can listen to it and hear it, right? And they have a technology where they can translate, which doesn't make them sound like a speaker coming out in English. The technology itself is sort of like a resonant field that helps you learn their language, helps you understand their sounds better. It's kind of like an over-exaggeration of sign language effect, so that you really get what they're saying. And the last thing that I've heard relative to the translators, they're working, and the Andromedans mostly, they're working on using some tools that we have here on Earth and basically converting them to make a translator tool. Kind of like if the astronauts are on their, our NASA astronauts are out there, they got to work with what they got on their spacecraft. That's what they're trying to do, and come up with something that we can easily make that's affordable to construct, and with some basic instructions.
Well, I'm curious as to why we're even going to use hard technology anyway when we have the telepathic gifts that are developing right now, and they know that we use them, and they can use them. Why are we going to hard tech?
The hard tech is for almost not even talking with them. It's about like a technology for having the nations here communicate better, the multiple languages we have here. So it's like a training wheels towards telepathy, actually. Because what it does is it gives you a sense of what telepathy is like, and then you can more readily identify with telepathy. A lot of the human technologies, that we're identifying as sort of like extra, powers and whatnot. Mm-hmm. They all have technologies that can bring them forward. Crystalline technologies that amplify these effects. That they're sort of used as training wheels. When they teach children about how to manifest out of thin air, they give them these crystals to do it, because the crystals help them focus a little better, or crystal-based technology, because at first the crystals will only allow certain things to be created, right? They'll be like limited to a certain spectrum depending on what the crystal's programmed with. So it helps you produce certain things and doesn't help you produce other things. And that prevents this whole accidentally creating things that you don't want to create.
Yeah, but we do it anyway with our thoughts and our default from our now present. So, what you're describing doesn't really sound any different than what we're already practicing as beings in the law of attraction.
That's true. And the purpose for the bigger purpose for the technology is so that everyone can feel like they're on the same playing level on a introduce it on day one sort of scenario. Sort of like everyone has access to the internet. No one has an advantage of the internet over someone else. Everyone has that technology. Because if you were to do like, okay, let's go have pub trivia here. Some of you can use the internet and the other ones you can't. You're going to be like, that's not cool. You know what I mean? So it's an equality perception development tool. Mm-hmm. And those who master beyond it will have greater flexibility.
So it's a transition. It's a bridge. These are bridge technologies.
It's not expected to replace anything.
Right.
But those of us who are jumping right in and grabbing their presence with both hands and gusto are probably not going to be attracted to these kinds of devices.
Well, what I'm getting, I don't know if this is the case or not. I don't know what people are going to, if this occurred, what people would think. But it could be literally you use it once for like 5 minutes, and then you practically have already mastered what you knew you were already developing. Like it'll just sort of like solidify it. Like it'll be annoying to have the training wheels, because the training wheels have their own limitations. Technologies have limitations, right? Fundamentally in their design. Not because you want them to have limitations, but simply because they can't be fully organic.
Okay, but I feel like it's running out. It's running out onto the outside again, instead of taking it back in and really recognizing and never veering from what we know about ourselves as eternal essence embodied. When we hold our focus and we continue to hold our focus, we manifest through the quantum field anything and everything we're thinking of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. This is one of their concerns, because in their reality, things are not as intense, right? Yeah. For us to create a tool, that tool gets amplified in what it's able to pull off. Like the far-reaching effects of it are more intense in our place than it is in their place, right? Because in their place, they're more homogenized. Nothing really sort of like stirs anything that everyone isn't totally in agreement with. Here, we give the power of creation to some people, and equally to anyone. It's actually more a process rather than you have to be in alignment with your higher being. You could, once you see how creation works and doing, manifesting out of thin air, when anyone can do it, whether they're, someone that can be perceived as your enemy or not. Everyone will it's just a basic technology. No one has the limits besides their belief structure. And once you see it happening, well, then everybody has access. And so the fear that they have along those lines is not really fear, but the concerns that they have with regards to bringing this technology out is that they have no idea what will happen when everybody can communicate. Like, the economic system is going to flip around instantaneously, right? The borders between countries is going to flip around in a day. All these things will dramatically shift in a very, very short span of time, and they don't feel the rights to step in and rock the boat that intensely per their interaction. However, that being said, when I started talking about them today, what's going on is they're starting to feel like they can do some more dramatic things than they once felt that they could.
Yeah, but this kind of conversation might be what calls forth kind of a galactic meeting, because like I'm listening to Carmel and I'm listening to Julien, the Pleiadians, what they have to say, and we might not come to a mutual agreement that is the best creative solution for the growth of humans on this planet. Just like what Carmel's saying, we might feel, remember, Gaia is who we're doing this with. And she may also prefer that, like what Carmel is suggesting, a more organic development of our biochemical machine. And devices and technology, we might come to a place where we go, well, how about this? Let's just study on devices and technology, get everyone informed, but let's really talk about galactically, is this a wise implementation?
Yeah, that's basically it.
Right.
And
is it detracting from the point of our expansive evolution as I am presence? And that's and I think these gadgets and this temptation to have somebody swoop in with their toys, and what? You wouldn't do that to a toddler who was learning how to walk. You wouldn't.
And especially right now on the planet, we are trying to nurture the divine feminine, which is bringing us back inside to our divine selves. So we may, we may have more time to really nurture that organic biochemical machine.
Mm-hmm. And we do. No, we totally do. We totally do, because otherwise they'd be here and they'd be knocking at your door right now. So, the fact that they're present right now for the most of us, there are some people who are having conversations and interactions with them, and that's wonderful for their reality. But for my reality, unless you're going to just kind of talk to me while I'm walking through it, or give me insights to things that you're seeing that I may not be seeing. But don't take away my right to learn how to stand up and be who I really am, and who I am is omnipresent. And I don't appreciate somebody trying to trick me out of that.
Right.
So
now, I would think like the priority of technology I would like our star brothers and sisters to be working on is cleaning our water.
Right.
Right. Clean our water, clean our air, clean up our food. But,
you want to help? Knock those
are
spraying those chemtrails out of the air.
Right, and we don't even have to see you. Just clean it up. And I know they are already. But
they are. There's actually a very specific contingent, I guess, a group that that are committed to that. But they're actually attacked a lot of the times.
Yes, they are.
There's like this thing where, like, once you're at a certain strata of the atmosphere and people can't see what's going on, the bad guys are really nasty after that point.
Right. We do have a shift in there's a ship parked here in the bottom of the ocean on the south point end of the Big Island, Hawaii. And it has shown me that it's purifying the ocean. But what it needs our joint effort. It wants our awareness and intention to energize it. So I found it remotely. I found it's kind of like a torus donut in the center of the ship, and it's flushing the ocean through it.
Oh, cool.
And I don't know. Yeah, and I don't know how come they're able to stay there, but they seem to be under constant, challenge. But they are there.
Yeah.
Right. Well, the wave of consciousness awakening is swelling, and I believe that all things happen exactly in perfection. So, when we are friends, visibly friends with other entities that come from other dimensions, other timelines, etc., that are popping in and out of here all the time, and we're all of us are aware of it as a natural and normal aspect of this presence and our abilities, then it will happen perfectly. I think that you still have people who are hanging on to every word Fox has to say, and that's just the way it is in the time frequency as we are pulling up and out of those lower frequencies. Those occurrences and those old beliefs are just starting to fall away. They're starting to dissolve. But the next 2 years are for the awakening and the download of information and the revealing of the unknown for those who don't know yet. And so I think that we can logically expect that there is going to be a whoa factor, where there's going to be a little bit of confusion regarding the things that are starting to be addressed full on in the Senate regarding the ET, the Black Op projects, etc., and so on, and all of the, the domino effect of all the projects and programs that have been acting that we have asked for the benefit of our strengthening to stand up on our own. To have somebody come in at this point and swoop it would be an abortion.
It seems to me, Gaia is just like knocking at my door here because I live on the land, and it's like I think we need to bring to the forefront the consciousness of our mother, and all she's asking us to do is to please be still enough to be in alignment with the land. And, remember, she's in self-correction, just like everything else on the universe. And I just wonder if our species isn't maybe the more prominent species that's really taking the time to unite in consciousness with the actual physical planet. Because in all the extraterrestrial communications I have, I never hear them really address their planet. And that's what's pulling us back to our origins. And so I just,
Well, our species and staying in harmony with the flow of the planet that we are a part of. If we're doing it, the planet is doing it. And anything, and this is just my perspective, but it's not an unusual perspective. Anything that I am doing and growing into, my mirror reality is doing and growing in. When I have an obstruction in my own belief system, in my own self-denial, when I have self-denial, I look in the outer reality, and the outer reality will reflect self-denial to me. So when we, take credit for all the wonderful healing that you're seeing out there. Take credit for that, because your belief in it is making it so. And these are the things that I think that all of us try to emphasize. Julien, with your daily blogs, that's what you're doing. You're emphasizing, keep that presence, hold that presence. Don't let anybody snatch it out of your hands or away from your focus, because that's when we dip back down into the lower fear realities, which is really just a test to see. This is a test of the emergency broadcast system. Can you handle what you're going back down and sticking your face into for a few more minutes? Yeah, you can. And you can say, nosedive, let's go back into now and get back into my power where I am the creator, and where the quantum field is always, always manifesting for me. Whether if I'm in presence now, it's manifesting. If I'm out of presence now, it's still manifesting what I'm focusing on. So taking responsibility, taking the utmost responsibility and care for what your presence is participating in, what you're believing in, what you're speaking. It's nice to have friends in other places, but you are the source. You are the creator. Those are just your playmates, your puppet playmates in your mirror reality. And they can pop in and out whenever you are inviting them, whenever you're focusing on them. And sometimes those are surprises from your superconscious asking you to grow,
So with that kind of communication, then ask them to help your form to evolve in a way that you can assist from you.
And that you can handle without coming apart at the seams, because it's so different so fast that you can't stay on the treadmill.
Yeah, I was facing a lot of rapid growth over the last year, and I was facing my own whoa, wow, this is amazing. Wait, this is getting uncomfortable. It's going so fast. I'm not able to sort of my Virgo analytical mind wants to densify all my experience, really validate all my experiences. And I was like, hold on, the narration of my life is going too fast for me to take cliff notes,
Yeah.
And I wanted to sort of cherish the moment more, and that's what's actually resulted in less of a steady race car flying at a high speed. Now I'm more in tune with the waveforms, the waves that people are getting all at once. So it's sort of like a wave where you get intensity and then you get a break, and you get intensity and you only get as much intensity as you're physically able to handle. And so now I became more in tune with that, because this always on was whoa, life was just flying,
Julien, you have children, and the lovely lady from Hawaii. That's how I'm going to always remember you. Do you have children?
No, I do not.
Oh, well, I'm watching. I notice this with my own kids, but I especially notice this with my grandson, because I don't have full responsibility. So it's easy for me to focus on just observing and watching him instead of worrying about him staying safe. My rules have changed, my knowing has changed, my wisdom has changed, and so grandchildren are really get a gift when they get to spend it with a grandparent who is just in observation mode and allowing. And I took him to a park where there was a hill, and he was 2. It was this last summer. He was just 2, but he's a big boy, and he's got a large presence, and he uses it very, very well. And I took him to this park, and there was a hill. It was just a little hill, with the incline, I would say, was 45 degrees at a certain point. And I said to him, I'm going to run down the hill. If you can join me, So I ran, because I didn't want to leave the hill, so I had to do something, So I trotted down this hill, and the gravity started to grab me, and it took me. And I got back down there, and I looked, and he went, no, come back up, with his little hand signal. I said, no, it's time to go, And so he gave in, and I said, you can do this. And he started, his little legs started to run down this hill, and I watched him as his legs were a blur. I couldn't even see his feet for a few seconds. And then I watched his focus on his face. And as he started to become concerned about the ground going faster than he could even see it, he lost his balance. When he lost his visual focus, he lost his balance. But up until then, his little legs were doing exactly what his intention was, which was to run down this hill and to keep his body upright, At the very last few, I don't know, yard or 2 or 3, maybe 15, 20 feet, he tripped a little bit, and he fell, and he started to roll, but he didn't lose his spirit, and he didn't lose his gumption. He stood up, and he went, whoa. I think it was really the first time that he challenged himself on the treadmill, going as fast as he did. Now, as I remember this back, as I recall this visual of watching him do that, I go, holy shit, I do that still as I'm growing now, you know, or my legs, like really, like Julien was explaining, going really, really fast, and then tripping a little bit, but not getting disheartened when I fell down for very long. I mean, he was shocked when he fell down and he rolled. He was like kind of surprised where he ended up, because it's not what he was planning. But isn't that true when we're thinking about progress and our own targets and goals, you know? We get a little disgruntled just for a second, but then we go, okay, I'm getting back up again. And he got back up, and then he started running into another direction. And he realized that it wasn't quite as fast without gravity. You know? So I think that, you know, all of our stories have a bit of gratitude for the velocity that we agreed to sample, even if it was temporary, you know, even if we couldn't quite hang on to it, but we know what it felt like, and we're going to go back, you know, as soon as we feel like we can.
Well, it kind of, if I were to reflect on what it was like near the, I guess, the July through September phase, I felt like I was running really fast and excitedly through like a forest. But what started to happen was the sun started to set, and then it became not so comfortable running through a forest in the dark as fast as I could.
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
I was like, I think I got a little too far here. I'm going to slow down. Take a little break. Find my center. Be more attentive to myself and not the environment that I'm exploring so much as myself, and giving it more attention to myself.
Right, and you're, you know, Julien, you're in a 5-year, you know, which is all about self-exploration. It's all about you and what you're feeling and what you're experiencing, and, you know, your expression of that as you take that journey is a gift for those people who are inspired to be with you when you're doing those expressions. So you know, when I've looked at a couple of your morning video blogs, you know, we always hope to stick to the point where, you know, of I am that I am, and I know that I am, and this is my journey right now, and it just is. You know, it just is, and I'm loving and I'm forgiving of my process. So the detox process is going to continue for a little while longer, and that doesn't mean that anything is wrong. It just means that we are releasing the things that no longer serve the expansion that we're having right now. You know, that was then and it served then, but now it's time to love and let that go and move on to the next thing. And so, you know, your life right now is all about expansion and exploration. And you are doing that heartily in many directions, as can be witnessed all over the place with your projects and your relationships and all that stuff. And again, you know, living out loud is recommended. And it doesn't matter who doesn't like exactly what you're doing or saying or experiencing right now. They are there to witness it, and it prickles them. You've served your purpose. You know, in any way, any kind of inspiration in any way is glorious, and is for me, I think we should be grateful for the experience. And somebody pisses me off, I go, okay, now why did that piss me off? Let me get in there and figure that out. You know, why did they prickle me? What is it about this that's making me have attention in this direction? You know.
Well, as you know, I like to have fun. I don't tend to do very much that I don't like. So I'm very much enjoying the video blogs. I've been wanting to do them every day and finding I need to adjust more in my life to make that work out. And so I'm trying to get that to happen more often. But at the same time, you know, I have to let it happen more as organically as possible.
Yeah.
because I don't want to stress out about it.
Yeah, I support that.
But I'm also in that perspective. I'm also in that place where I'm talking with people every day, and it seems that the theme of the day is very apparent, and it gets me to a place where I really want to share more with other people on what's, as if they could be here with me, and try to get do as much as I can to share, what it's like for me and the sorts of wonderful discussions and people that I'm meeting and stuff that I'm going through. And I get excited pretty easily, I think, because there's just so much on this new frontier to discover. The world of your imagination is really quite blissfully exciting.
Well, it can be, but it also can be horrifying if you stay there for too in fear. So, and I hear you teaching the same thing. Stay now. You got it. You have to. I'm having here. You have to stay in your presence if you're going to change anything in your life that you want to change. Focusing on your now joy is really where you're key to all of the power in all of the universe. You are the universe. Stay on target. Stay on point. I am that I am. You find a little tricky little tool, you put it in your pocket, and you carry it with you. That you don't have to sit at the computer and listen to somebody else tell you how to do it. You are doing it. You are being it. You are it. You're not wishing. You're not an armchair traveler. You be the navigator. So
that's what we all want. That's what I think everyone is kind of looking for. That's what I've kind of discovered. People want greater empowerment over the day-to-day moments of their life, and really just comes down to exercising that, just exercise.
Correct.
I'm not saying go out and, tell your boss off and tell your girlfriend off and all this sort of thing. Basically, if you're not truly in joy with your actions, well then, you're probably not serving yourself too highly there, besides giving yourself a greater challenge to work with later.
Well, and also if we're co-creating our reality, we're really on 24/7. So we have to be doing a continual check on what our perception is, what we're creating.
Right.
And right. So if we're cultivating that, we don't really have time to think about why the other person did what they did. We have to continually look at why is that person even in my life.
Right. Like a three-point triangulation is pretty perfect for figuring out who you are, where you are, and what you're doing. You've got something that you can angle off of so that you can. But again, remembering that labels and identifying with things that are closed rooms of perception really is really what we're growing out of. We're that expanded idea of I am anything I want to be. Again, humans are awesome. Look at some of the stuff people do. Look at some of the things they can do. Just as Julien says, starting with their imagination. The airplane that you can park in your garage, or the woman who does yoga after she's dipped herself in ink and she makes these beautiful drawings. Just think of the things that humans do. Watch and be in awe of some of the things that they can and are willing to be doing in a constructive sense, as in a growing kind of a nature, an extensive kind of nature,
There's this book I read, a Dr. Seuss book that I read to my daughter the other day, and she was putting her down for bed. It's called "Oh, the Things We Can Think," or "The Things We Can Think," and it basically explores the realm of the imagination and all the possible things that you can have in your head. And it really just sort of like blew the lid off, saying, you're unlimited here. I mean, you really don't play with limitations when you really want to play in your imagination. If you want to add limitations to your imagination, fine, but start where, exploration is sort of like the name of the game. And you can go really far with that. the other thing that I'm trying to bestow more and more is a trust of that part of yourself that we identify as imagination. We often really don't give it the credit that it's due. And the more that we give the credit, and the more that we're attentive to the undercurrents of what we're seeing, we can actually read our emotional state based on our imagination, similar to how we interpret dreams. You know, there's dream interpretation language. We can learn a lot about our state when we're having trouble trying to get back in alignment, and can help us reflect on what is trying to come through us too. In imagination, a lot of it's symbolic, but that's also because a lot of things that we want to experience succinctly doesn't exist, but what we're really attracting is the theme behind the emotions of what experiences are bringing. It's not like the specificity of the experience so much as like what emotional themes are brought together and how they play and intermingle. That's what we call drama, but at the same time, we're using the word drama to indicate, a negative process of growth. We say avoid drama, avoid drama. Well, there's a lot of work that happens when there's drama. Only when you're seeing it as too challenging, you tend not to be ready for whatever messages you're growing within that drama.
Or when your identity is sucked into the personalities and that are in the mirror.
Yeah.
If you're losing yourself in the drama in the outside world, it's time to stop and take a break. You'll never get it done, and you can't get it wrong, particularly if you just stop your reactivity. And there are billions and billions of tools out there. There's tools sitting right in front of you. I guarantee if you look out, there will be something that can inspire you back into your now presence. Get nitpicky, feeling good, right. Really feeling good all the time and holding that focus. And there your reality, your mirror reality will shift and float. And then the drama won't enter your life, your presence anymore, or very rarely. And then so rarely that, you'll be able to handle it like, water off a duck's back,
Well, actually, the translation of drama will leave negativity behind, and we'll just start to recognize this is a moment of the unknown. What is there that I can become more aware or conscious of? We won't even call it drama anymore.
Right. I want to make an announcement. I'm going to start doing numerology on Thursday nights after the Spiral Journey on the Just Us Radio Network. If you go to the Spiral Journey Facebook page, I'm going to put the announcement up this week. I'm setting it up for 2 hours of flybys. You want to call and talk to me, and I'm also going to be teaching people how to use their now presence in conjunction with their time reality playtime. So that's going to be fun. And what else? Julien?
I have a show tomorrow. The show's called Revolution Ships on Blog Talk Radio, Understanding You. And, of course, I'm doing video blogging on YouTube. You can find me just by typing in my name. Or you can go to my website, julienwells.com, and basically have links to everything that I'm up to if you want to catch up.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, lovely lady.
I want to thank both of you. This has just been so wonderful for me. I'm just very grateful to get to spend this full time with you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, when there's other shows all week long, and if you want to join me again, I'm on the Spiral Journey on Thursday evenings at 8:00 as well. So feel free to join that wonderful conversation and add your love there too. Thanks, Julien.
Yes,
thank you. I'm out. DeerWomon.
You're so welcome.
Everyone have a good night. Namaste.
Aloha.
Aloha.